Okay. Got that. Okay, and click on that. There we go. I think that we're set. Let's hope, shouldn't we? Yes, let's. All right. Good morning. Well, it's morning here. Might be different where you are. It probably is. Let's see here. Got a bunch of people in the chat already. That's fun. Hi from Arizona, watching and listening while getting ready to go visit family for the holiday. Nice. Good morning from Salt Lake City. Currently painting up some Space Marine Gene Stealer cult conversions. That sounds fun. I'd love some of those new Commandos. I hope they're available on their own sometime this fall. Yeah, I do too. I do hope that they decide to release the stuff out of the Octarius box. I would be really surprised if they didn't, but, you know, I've been surprised before, Lord knows. Let's see here. Good morning from South Florida, Nashville, Tennessee. Finally getting over a break in the heat. Yeah, it's supposed to be okay today. It's supposed to be pretty decent. Like yesterday was very damp and kind of cool, which was fine. It's been okay, but yeah, you know, we'll see how it goes. Give it some time. Good morning from Tucson, Arizona. Just finished kit bashing, assembling some Custodes, and was enjoying looking through your painting videos last night for advice on where to start. Nice, good to hear it. Painting terrain for Kill Team and Warcry in sunny Edinburgh, Scotland today. Nice. Hello from Winnicott. Been a while since I caught a live show. Good to be back. Absolutely. Good midnight, fellow Aussies, says VJ Morph. Yeah. Hello from the Philippines. Uncle Adam and everyone painting some commissions tonight. Nice. Morning from Smoke Hazy, Eugene, Oregon. I've got the Octarius box, but I'm moving in a little over 3 weeks, and unfortunately waiting until I move to start building and painting. Yeah, no, I can. That makes sense, I think. My cat Omar is snoring hard. Father's son, says moderator Matt. That's a good boy, that Omar. Let's see here. How Adam learned to stop worrying and love the new Kill Team. I mean, no. I mean, basically my thought process is that I'm gonna build the orcs. This is a precursor, let's say. I'm going to build the orcs that come from that box set so that, like I said, my other guys have something to fight against. But I don't see myself building any other Kill Team stuff, I guess, until better stuff comes out, because I'm not a big fan of the compendium. But the two things in that box, when you fight them against each other, it's more fun because they're more flavorful. Each of the two different armies in that box, in comparison to the stuff in the compendium. Anyway, let's see here. Painting up the new Orc Commandos. I heard they will get a release. Yeah, like I said, I think they would do so, but yeah. Hello from Kenosha. Hi from Italy. Good morning from Mexico. Hello from London. How you all doing? Another good morning from Clearwater, Florida. Cleveland, finishing up an ATST for Legion. Nice. I have one of those as well, and I do eventually want to do it. I think it would be a lot of fun. Been raining all week in southern Florida, but that's good because I'm tired of tourists and they should all be gone by now. Well, there you go. Good morning from DC. Let's see here. Hello from Belgium, which is in Europe. Yes, I get that. Yep. But thank you. Greetings, sir. Haven't heard your lovely British accent in a while. Yeah, that was not talking to me. That was talking to somebody else. Have you seen the reviews of Fireteam? Looks like a great Kill Team and Underworlds mashup. I haven't. I have a copy of it, I think. I think that they sent me a copy, but I'm not sure. I know they sent me some stuff, but I don't remember if they sent me that or not. Darnock says, finally have 2 Cabals for a Rain in Hell introduction game painted. Nice. I finished my... I've been painting in the last 2 episodes on Twitch, just finishing them up, but I did get my Cabal painted. It's a Judge's Cabal. And then the last 2 days, it's been me and Vince, and then Sam's been there too, hanging out, having a good time. Well, I don't know if Sam's been having a good time, unfortunately, because it was like, we were like, doing the battle report stuff, and Sam was, he was actually building some orcs. but I hope he had a good time. It's always good to see him. And then we went out to eat a couple of times. Anyway, Vince was visiting, is my point. Come up from come up from Ohio. And so we filmed 2 battle reports. We'll see how it goes. I'm not sure about the technical stuff. We had to, things worked, but I don't know if they worked as well as I would like. One of them, we used one kind of audio solution. The other one, we used a different audio solution. It's kind of a test to see what I like better, that kind of stuff. All that jazz. But all that being said, we did get to film some stuff. We got to start talking about the new game that we'll be coming out with next year and get some good work done on that. So that's been very cool. Yeah, that's where that's at. Good morning from Istanbul. Just finished painting my Sons of Malice CSM test model. Nice. Played my first one-page rules fantasy skirmish solo game yesterday. Really cool game. Yeah, I've been looking a lot at the one-page rules stuff. I think it's... Initially, I was like looking at the firefight rules, which are designed basically to be kind of like, this is kind of Kill Team or Kill Team-esque. And it's funny because I downloaded the slightly fancier rule set, and I'm flipping through it on my iPad or whatever, and there's like a diagram that's like, oh, this is how you keep your squad in cohesion. They all have to measure this far from each other and stuff. And I'm like, but I don't want to move squads. I want to move singular people because that's what I thought. That's what Kill Team is. That's what I like about skirmish games, is not moving in squads. And then that kind of I just kind of didn't pay attention to it for like a good year or so. And then recently somebody was like, well, there are certain figures in the game that move in squads, like in the kind of knockoff of Imperial Guard, you have these conscripts, kind of like penal soldiers or whatever. And they move in a group of 3 or something like that. But everybody else basically moves singularly. So just that one chart sort of put me off, and I didn't pay attention to it anymore. But I've been looking at it again, and the person who told me that is right. There are certain, like if you're playing Tyranids, they're like, the Termagants move in like groups of 3 or 5 or something like that. But most of the rest of the models are all basically singles, which is cool. So I'm taking a look at that again, and we'll check it out. I'm leaning more and more to revisiting classic BattleTech. Too many Wargamer Fritz videos. I don't think I'm familiar with Wargamer Fritz. Classic BattleTech. I wish I liked the models better, and the game system. I love the concept of BattleTech. It was basically my first war game for the most part back in middle school. There's just so many little dots to fill out, and so there's just, I don't know. It's just not quite for me, I think. Plus, like I said, also the models are just not as interesting to me as I would like. But, again, that's personal opinion. Your mileage may vary. How do you feel about the Warhammer Imperium magazine? I've not seen it. I mean, I've heard of it vaguely. I maybe have seen an email about it or something, but I don't know anything about it, unfortunately. Decided to use the Grimdark one-page rule Gang Wars rule set instead of Kill Team rules. A lot easier and streamlined. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is that the one-page rule stuff is very... Like, some of the actual rules are actually literally one-page rules. Now, they mean both sides of a piece of paper. So, I guess, it's a semantics argument, whether page or paper. Anyway. But if you generally, go to their website, they also usually have versions, or else you can buy the version, I think, maybe for cheap. I think I bought mine from Wargame Vault, where Reign in Hell is also published, and many other great games. You should be checking out indie stuff over at Wargame Vault, in my opinion. Anyway, for like $5, you can get the expanded version of any one of their rule sets for the most part, and then get some really cool stuff. Good morning from the Pocket Dimension. How you doing, JP Got Rockets? Got my Beast Snaggis box today. Nice. I'm not too big on the squad aspect of Grimdark Feature Firefighter. I'd rather have everyone be an individual. Like I said, I can understand it with certain figures, and to be perfectly frank, you can just not take those figures. If you don't need to take like a group of like Termagants or like I said, conscript penal colony guys. I don't know what they are. They're basically like guys in jail that they give them guns and go, you have to go fight. The Imperial Guard do that in 40K, and you have that kind of stuff as well in this game. So, you do that, and then you have to take those guys in those groups. But if you don't take those models, then you can build, and then everything can be kind of onesies. Be fun to see Space Marines in a onesie. I mean, technically they're kind of in a onesie, aren't they? Anyway, let's see here. Morning from Jonesboro, Illinois. What about BattleTech Alpha Strike? Still uses the models, which, again, like I said, I don't particularly dig. I was going to try to get Alpha Strike one time, and I think I've told this story before. I was at, in Columbus, Ohio at Origins 2018, maybe, and they had a bunch of the models for sale for real cheap. And I was like, well, I don't know, maybe if I get a bunch of them for real cheap, maybe. And it was for... it's these different Alpha Strike boxes, and then at the time they're like, I said, okay, well, how much do the rules cost? And she's like, oh, we don't have the rules. We're out of print on the rules. And I'm like, so you want to sub all these models, but there's no rules? And I'm like, all right, and I didn't buy them. And then the next year I came back, and then they had the rules back in print, and then they didn't have any models there in the booth. So I was just like, I don't know what to do about that. And obviously, probably with a decent amount of work, I could have probably. I assume that they sell their stuff digitally well as PDF, but some companies don't because they just don't trust it. So, okay, whatever. So I could have probably figured it out. I could have gone to eBay and found somebody who was selling the book, maybe, whatever. I could have, done a bunch of extra work to play a game that I'm not sure that I'm going to be interested in, but that's the hill that I'm not necessarily interested in climbing. If you want me to get into a new game that I don't know much about, it needs to be kind of easy, and... unfortunately, Catalyst has made it a little difficult lately. Well, in the last several years. I don't know about right now because, again, I haven't been to a convention in a while, all that kind of stuff. I am going to Gen Con in like 2 weeks. We'll see how it goes. I'm going to be certainly wearing a mask, so you may not recognize me. It's not like you'd still see me from here, above the nose. But, yeah. Anyway, so... we'll see how that goes. Maybe I'll stop by. I don't even know if they're going to be at Gen Con, but I'll take a look. Maybe they are. Good morning from Bainbridge. Playing my first game of Stargrave with my wife today. Nice. Recently tried Stargrave and was super fun. I recommend it to anyone who wants to play a different kind of skirmish sci-fi game, says Antonio from Spain. I think Stargrave and Frostgrave, if you're more into fantasy, both of those games are really good. And I am... really looking forward to getting my Stargrave. I've got a Stargrave. My first Stargrave force is, let's say, 80% done. Well, maybe 70, but they're close. I've been showing a little bit on Twitch when I'm streaming on Twitch here and there, and I want to get them done, and then I'm going to do another one. And I'm also working on buildings right now too. I've got a couple different terrain pieces that are finished, and I've got some other ones that need to be built. Predominantly getting them. Game Format has been 3D printing me buildings from Terrain Machine that I've designed, terrainmachine.com. You can go there and kind of like you do with Hero Forge. If you've heard of Hero Forge, that's the place where in your browser you can design your own 3D person, and then you can either pay them to print it and send it to you, or you can just download the STL yourself, which you still have to pay for, but it's like $8 or $10. And then you can print it yourself, let's say on your resin printer if you got one. Well, Terrain Machine is like that, and it's making buildings, and then you can, but they don't print them. They'll only just sell you the STL. And then, so anyway, I designed a bunch of cool sci-fi buildings with that system, and then Matt's been printing them, and I've been gluing them together and painting them. I've only got a couple though, but I'm getting there. Let's see here. What audio solutions were you trying out? The first one, we used two lapel mics that I've got. Fancy Sennheiser ones. Probably, if anything, a little oversensitive. The downside was I was wearing a t-shirt, and it's real hard to clip a lapel mic to your t-shirt, kind of. And so I don't know how well that worked. We'll see. Vince was reasonable and was wearing a button-down shirt as well as a t-shirt, even though it was kind of warm, but not that warm. So hopefully that'll maybe sound okay. The second one we did, I used a mic that I bought that's made by a company called Deity, like a deity. I don't know why that's what they call the company, but they make it kind of cool, like shotgun mics and things like that. And the one that I bought from them is called a Duo, and it has a shotgun mic that points out the front, which is the normal point, but it also has one, there's a switch you can turn on, and it will also has a second shotgun mic that points out the back. So when you're doing a battle report, not only can you hear the person across the table, but you can be heard as well. So we'll see how that one works as well. I'm not sure. But yeah, we'll see. It's been a long time since I shot a battle report, and I don't think I was good at it before, and I don't think I've gotten any better, but we'll see. Got my Battletech Wave 2 in this week. Those minis are crisp and delicious. You shouldn't be eating them. That's probably not a good idea. Have you tried Alpha Strike? Seems more like a modern take on Battletech. I haven't, no. I've tried to get on demos on it in the past, like at Gen Con and places like that, and I've not been able to pull the trigger on it. Good morning from Indiana, heading out to an art festival, but I got the new Kill Teams box, so I'll watch the stream when I get back. Have a great Labor Day, Adam and company. Absolutely, Redmaw. Let's see. Do you play 5 parsecs? What do you recommend company-wise for a crew in 28mm? I don't play 5 parsecs, or I haven't played it yet. I've read through the rules. I like what I see. 5 Parsecs from Home is a sci-fi game that is currently being published through Modiphius. It is designed by Nordic Weasel Games, and this is like the 3rd edition. And the first 2 editions were self-published through Nordic Weasel, and this 3rd edition now is through Modiphius, so it's got fancy artwork and fancy layout and all that kind of stuff. And it is predominantly a solo/co-op skirmish game. So that's pretty cool right off the bat. And I don't know, I think the system seems interesting. As far as for miniatures and things like that, like for Stargrave, I'm mainly using the Stargrave miniatures, actually, that North Star came out with, the plastic ones. There's Stargrave Troopers, Crew, and Mercenaries. There's 3 separate boxes, and they're great little models. I like them, actually. If you dirty them up a little bit, I think they look a lot better than... They look really clean in the pictures in the Stargrave book. In my opinion, too clean. So you dirty them up a little bit, and I think it helps a good deal. But I've also added in other stuff. I've added in my Hacker as a Van Sar model that I've kind of kit-bashed a bit. My robot is a Star Wars Legion robot. So I've got some other stuff kind of tweaked in there. But yeah, there's a lot of different companies out there that make stuff that'll work, I think, really well for that game, including the stuff that's that they designed that you could use, but you don't have to. If you're wearing a Master Gen Con, you're going to have to tag that up with a Fez. If it's hot, that's going to be... Well, first of all, I'm going to probably... If the Fez company is going this year to Gen Con, which I guess I should check and see if they are. They may not be. I think there's a lot of companies that are not going to Gen Con this year. That being said, if they are, I'll probably buy another Fez. But if they're not... Fezes are real warm. So I don't know if I want to be wearing one around too much at Gen Con. Let's see here. Going to play my last game of Kill Team 1 today. Gotcha. I remember Fass's Grav Tank game Centurion was a lot of fun. I vaguely remember that. I do. You had large blocks of armor and weapons and templates and showed which boxes to mark off. Yeah, I think that's part of the issue is that I think these days, like, game design is not so much about, like, ticking, like, oh, you got to tick 12 of these boxes, and you got to tick this, and you got to tick, and you have all this kind of stuff. Like, anytime the game takes, like, that much paperwork, it's very probably better as a video game. And I'll be honest, the BattleTech video game, not the Mech Warrior games, those are fine, but the BattleTech video game from Harebrained Schemes is the name of the company that makes it. Is turn-based. It's not necessarily top-down. You can move the camera wherever you want, all that kind of stuff. But it's turn-based, and it reminds me... It looks like a gorgeous board, like, because there's trees, and there's lakes, and rivers, and all kinds of junk going on, and rocks, and all that kind of stuff. And so you can move around at any point. It's like playing the tabletop game, sort of. It's not the same rule set, particularly, but it puts me in the mind of playing the tabletop game, specifically because it's turn-based, and because you're not in the cockpit, you're looking at the models. And... that game's a ton of fun, and that really kind of makes sense that it would be. But yeah. Morning from California. How you doing, Bato? I also have a silly amount of terrain in 6mm scale. Relatively easy to store, because it's smaller. Makes sense. Thanks for the answer. We just started making bat reps. We've made do with the mic on the phone we were recording from. My main issue with battle reports generally is that you can hear the person holding the camera or potentially phone, but you can't hear the person on the other side of the table, which is why I originally invested in the lapel mics, but I haven't completely gotten the hang of the lapel mics yet. So there's that. And I wanted to try this other type of... like I said, Deity is the name of the company, and it's a something duo is the name of the where did I put the... So... This is not the camera we use. This is just a Sony ZV-1. Some of you refer to it as a ZV-1. Anyway, this is not a deity mic, but this is a Rode mic. It has a big dead cat on it that they call it. And that's for if you're outside. This helps with the wind blowing, so you don't get that wind blowing noise. But indoors, you don't need it usually. So this is a tiny little shotgun mic that's on top of the camera here, right? And it has got a little, you'll notice how it's got a bouncy kind of thing. That's like a shock mount. So clicking, bumping the camera with your fingers or doing stuff like that is less likely to get into the microphone and make a bunch of noise. Probably still like this, still going to show up in there probably, but other movements will be, hopefully quieter. The one that I was using, basically the plug, instead of going in the back, goes in the side because there's one of these things on the front, and then there's a thing on that just like it on the back, pointing backwards. So if you're holding it like this, it's recording the person in front of you, but there's a switch on top where you can also make it so it records out the front and the back at the same time. So we'll see how that works out. It seems like a thing that's aimed almost directly at battle report people, although I'm sure it's not. I'm sure it's more for... no, I can't get my thing back on there. I'll do it later. I'm sure it's aimed towards more like vloggers and stuff like that or whatever, but yeah. So you get a microphone, plus you also get a free tribble, which is sort of nice. And it's a tribble finger puppet. Anyway, so yeah. The next TMX should be an Alpha Strike Love Fest. Yeah, I think definitely. I'm all for it. Waiting for Quarantine 37 expansion for Stargrave. Pumped about the solo rules. Watched the overview by Ash Barker, Zombies and Bugs in Space. Yeah, I have a copy of it. They sent it to me. I don't have it here. I left it at the office. They're still sending me stuff at my day job. They have not... I think I've tried a couple of times to get them to send me stuff at home now because I work from home about an equal amount. But anyway, yeah. But yeah, I haven't gotten a chance to go through the new Quarantine 37 expansion as much as I would like. But I am glad that they're adding in the solo stuff. I think that's, especially in this day and age, it's a smart idea. I honestly was surprised how good the Warhammer Plus battle reports were. They took a format that a lot of video content folks do and really elevated it. I mean, I would hope so. They have the money and the manpower. So yeah, I'm hoping that they do. I'd recommended watching Guerrilla Miniature Games demo of Alpha Strike. It's very streamlined now. Yeah, I mean, again, like I said, I don't know. Like the miniatures also kind of just still don't really make me super interested, I think. Good morning from California. Have you played Frostgrave? Curious on your thoughts. Oh, yeah. It's been a while, but yeah, I've played Frostgrave. I'm interested in playing Stargrave now because two things. Number one, I'm generally a little bit more of a fan of sci-fi versus fantasy to some degree. Secondly, I like the things and the changes they did with Stargrave. One of the biggest changes that I like quite a bit is that the captain, who used to basically be the wizard for the most part in Frostgrave, and the now first mate, which used to be basically the apprentice in Frostgrave, are very separate. It used to be that the apprentice was basically just a in the wings version of the wizard and could do some stuff, but they were basically like the same kind of person. They had to use the same kind of skills and all that kind of stuff. So the apprentice was just basically there waiting for the wizard to die, and then the apprentice became the wizard. In Stargrave, your first mate and your captain can be completely separate from each other as far as their skill sets and all that kind of stuff, which I like because it gives me just a little bit more, flexibility and stuff like that. There's a YouTube channel, Season of War, that does some nice bat reps for Age of Sigmar, but I think it mostly comes down to the personalities more than the filming. In most situations, at least for me, I'll watch a battle report if I like the people a lot, but otherwise I'm not super interested in watching them. Sometimes I'll watch a battle report just to learn about a new game, and if I'm doing that, that generally means I'm watching Ash Barker, because he plays generally all the new games. So there's that. If I'm trying to figure out, what's this game like, and I'll watch that. But I haven't watched a 40k battle report, and I can't tell you how long. The last one I'm sure that I watched was probably Tabletop Tactics, and it was probably Lawrence and Bone playing against each other, because I used to enjoy watching the two of those play against each other quite a bit, but now Bone's not doing that anymore. He's not with Tabletop Tactics and stuff. So, yeah, for me, personality is probably nearly the most important thing, unless, like I said, it's a new game that I'm trying to check out to kind of learn more about it. But yeah, I'm not a big consumer of battle reports, let's just say that. And so I think that's part of the reason why I'm also... I don't know that I'm going to do them properly. So I don't know. We'll see how it goes. Let's see. Cool to catch you live, says Charming Cthulhu. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I do this show every other Sunday, hence the name, the Every Other Sunday Show. But yeah, I also do Twitch. There's a button I could push. Go. There we go. Yeah, I stream on Twitch on Monday nights at 7 p.m. Central, and even though tomorrow, Monday, is Labor Day here in the United States, and in other parts of the world, I think, I'm still going to be streaming tomorrow night at 7 p.m., so you can come by and check me out. I'm going to start painting on some Slaves to Darkness Chaos Warriors for Warcry. I built myself a Warcry band out of models from that Slaves to Darkness starter box. Start collecting box, whatever they call it. And so they're all built and textured and zenithal primed and ready to dance. So there'll be some painting and stuff tomorrow. And then I also do Friday mornings also at 10 a.m. Central on Twitch. Twitch.tv/tabletopminions. And so that's, I mean, I'm still talking to people and reading chat and all that kind of stuff, but I'm also painting, whereas here I'm just, yammering on as I do. But yeah, it's good to have you here. West Bend, Wisconsin. Good, caught you live. Absolutely, Daniel. Good to see you. Hello from Manchester, United Kingdom. Had a look at the Kill Team starter last week, but the orcs seem smaller than usual. I don't feel like they're smaller. I guess I haven't compared. But I don't know if they seem smaller, in my opinion. I was thinking about this last night, though. It's interesting the way that they keep doing the orcs. Games Workshop keeps doing the orcs, the new stuff. Like, there's this great sculpt. I mean, it's a pretty great sculpt. It's in the Kill Team box. I don't have a picture of it here, but it is the, I think he's a grot, and he's supposed to be very sneaky, right? And he's wearing like a black outfit, like a hoodie or something like that, and he's got it zipped all the way up to his nose, so just his nose is sticking out. And it's funny, it's comical, that's great. And I was thinking about it last night, and I'm like, where do orcs get zippers from? Like, it doesn't seem like back in the day, orcs were just like, we found some stuff on the ground, we hit it with hammers until it was roughly the shape that it would fit onto my torso, and now I have a chest plate. You know what I mean? And that's like, everything that they did was sort of like, let's say artisanal, in that they probably built it themselves. Or, there were some, obviously you got your mech orcs or whatever who will do some building and things like that. But, like, these orc commandos are relatively well dressed. Some of them are wearing camouflage the way that at least they're painted. And I'm like, where's that coming from? I mean, maybe they stole it from other people. I guess there's that. Maybe they stole the zippers. I don't know. Maybe this Gretchen or whatever, Grot, whatever they're called these days, found a hoodie and has zipped it up and now thinks that it's very sneaky. I don't know. It seems like they're making the orcs a lot, and I don't want to say fancier. I mean, obviously they're sculpting them better, but they are just like, I was just looking at the pictures last night when I was trying to come up with this title card thing here. And I'm just like, where are they getting, like, the belts? And, like, where do you get that hat? What orc makes a hat like that? You know what I mean? It was strange. That's the one thing I think that they've got going better in Age of Sigmar, let's say. Because those orcs are very, they're not wearing, like, finely crafted stuff. Like, they're like, hey, you need armor. Come over here. I'm going to weld this onto you. You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of how they do things over there in Orkville. But, yeah, I don't know. I'm sure it doesn't make a lick of matter, but it's just something I was thinking about last night as I was trying to fall asleep. I'm like, where'd that orc get that zipper from? Because zippers are hard. It's hard to build. We haven't had zippers for a super long time. You know what I mean? Been painting up some troopers, giving them a chipped and dirty yellow color and less hoovery guns. They brush up very nicely. Nice. Love to learn how to record battle reports locally. I have a good audio and camera equipment, but it seems like a lot of work. It is a lot of work. Someone asked me on Friday, I think, on Twitch. They're like, so does it still make the game fun when you record a battle report? And I was like, no, not not even a little bit. No, it's really, it's not a fun experience in my opinion. Maybe other people really love it. That's cool. But trying to record, keep your camera in the right spot, pick up dice with the other hand, all that stuff, make sure the audio is working, all that stuff. It takes a game that should take half an hour to 45 minutes to take it an hour and a half, and it's just it's hard. So the people that do it very well, I think, are very talented. In the digital age, is it worth foregoing bold layout in favor of something that might read on a phone better? Talking about game design. That's a good question. Here's the thing. There are a lot of rule sets. For example, over on wargamevault.com, which is it's a great place to go and find. If you're looking for like indie miniature games and things like that, Wargame Vault, hashtag not an ad, but it's a good place to find that stuff. If you're into RPGs, you're probably looking at Drive Through RPG. Same company, they're under the same umbrella, all that kind of stuff. Company called One Bookshelf, and they do Drive Through Comics, Drive Through Cards, all this stuff, and Wargame Vault's another one. There are a lot of games that are on Wargame Vault that look like they were laid out in Word, just straight up Microsoft Word. Everything's done in Times New Roman in one column. There's almost no artwork, and people judge that. If you're looking at a they tell you, never judge a book by its cover, but I've always said, but you can sometimes get a gist of the plot. You know what I mean? And so there's a very good chance that this could be a great game under here, but when it looks incredibly dull and boring and there's no good layout or even interesting layout, I think people have a tendency to discount it and then not buy that game, let's say. So sure, there's maybe a potential for having a version for people who want to read it on their phones, but also I've been noticing that a lot of people like to print out the PDFs when they're going to be going and playing, a game like Reign in Hell. And when we launched Reign in Hell, between the PDF version, well, we decided we were going to do both versions. We were going to do a PDF version and a print version, and the print version has outsold the PDF-only version by a lot. Now, admittedly, when you buy the print version, you are also getting a copy of the PDF version for free, so there's a benefit there. Most people don't seem to do that, but Vince and I are, well, frankly, we're not very good capitalists, which I'm fine with, and I'm pretty sure Vince is as well, so that's okay. But I've been amazed by how many people wanted the print version, because I'm a big fan of PDF, because I've got an iPad, so I'll just buy a rule set. I have it right now, and now I can flip through it. I can do a search for words and things like that when I'm trying to find a section in a page or whatever. But yeah, so I think that there's a lot of designers out there that are just like, I came up with a design, I got to figure out something to do for the cover, and then I'll just do a really super quick layout, and then people will buy it. And the fact is they won't. You kind of need to spend time on art, spend time on layout, and if you don't have that skill set, then it looks like you probably want to, if you want to try to make this successful and get people to buy it, then you probably have to find somebody who can do that kind of stuff and work with them, either partner with them, pay them, something like that. Maybe your spouse is good at that stuff, and then you try to, get them roped into it in some fashion or something like that. But yeah, it's difficult, but it's important, I think. Especially if you're interested in getting people to actually buy your stuff. I use my Mercs in 5 parsecs from home because I certainly have a ton of those. Yeah, Mercs are we were just talking about the Mercs game. Me and Sam and Vince were talking about it, I think on Friday, because I had the book at the studio and stuff, and I think that Mercs is coming back. I swear some company bought the rules, or bought the rights to it, and is going to be producing a new version of it sort of soonish, I think. Maybe in time for Gen Con next year, or maybe it's coming out still this year. I'm not sure. I'm sure plans have changed because of COVID and all that, but yeah. Hello from Australia, just after midnight. Now I'm painting up my Kill Team terrain and some Chaos Space Marines. The Kill Team terrain was fun to paint. I got to paint more of it. I kind of didn't think I'd like it, but it was actually a good time. Got a box of the Stargrave Troopers, and I think they're great. I added extra packs, pouches, etc. for military miniature spares. Yeah, that kind of kit bashing is A, simple, but B, very effective. It works out and looks really cool, I think. I have a giant pile of minis ready to paint, but nowhere to do it. That's sometimes also troublesome. I can understand that. Let's see here. Uncle Adam, are you saying that 40k is not entirely logical? I don't know that I said that. I'm not. Oh, you mean as far as the story and why the orcs are wearing zippers? Sure, let's say that. I mean, again, it's not important, but I look at it and I'm just like, I don't know. Even I was just looking at him like, where'd that guy get that zipper from? It doesn't make any sense. So yeah, it's the other thing too. I noticed, and as I was working on this title card here, you notice how the orcs have got a bit of a pinkish tinge to them in some spots, like on the knuckles down here on that guy holding a knife. And like that other guy who's got the gun up in the air, he's got that power claw that's like grafted onto his arm, and you can see stitches, and he's got a piston going right into his bicep, which I don't even know how that works. But they're orcs. It doesn't have to work, technically, because as long as they all believe it works, then it works, allegedly. Anyway, my point is that why are the orcs slightly pinkish in spots? Like, I thought that orcs were plant-based. Oops, I just clicked something I didn't mean to. There we go. I thought that orcs were plant-based. Like, the reason that I and basically all of us who are humans have a bit of a warmish kind of, in general, sort of pinkish, reddish tinge in certain spots in our bodies, dependent upon what your skin tone is because we've got blood inside and our blood is red. And so, like, when they make the knuckles on the orcs, or like the fact that they're making it slow, do orcs bleed red? I thought they would bleed green, or maybe not bleed at all. Because plants, like when you pick a dandelion, they bleed kind of white. It's not bleeding. Well, maybe it's bleeding. I don't know. I don't know. These are just the other things I think about when I'm looking at pictures of orcs, I guess. And like last night when I was doing that Photoshop, I was just like, why is he slightly pinkish in spots? And I don't remember seeing that before either. I mean, it makes him look sort of more realistic, but I don't know. It's confusing. I've had people tell me many times that they bought my games because of the artwork first and foremost. Well, Nick, yeah, I mean, your stuff is very cool. I like the Nick Evans, maker of, I've got Brutal Quest right here, but also Planet 28. And yeah, like, this has definitely got, like, some thought to it. It's got an old school kind of art vibe. I dig the artwork a lot. But yeah, if you would just lay that out in Word, like in, Arial or Times New Roman with almost no artwork of any kind, just it and a cover of something that you found on a free site someplace, and then typed some text over the top of it. That's what a lot of the stuff looks like over there over at Wargame Vault, and it's because that's what they've got available to them. And I understand that, but there are things you could do. There are people you could reach out to, that kind of stuff. Hopefully, but it does take a time, at least a time investment, if not a money investment. And a lot of these folks that are producing stuff sometimes don't have that ability to do that or whatever, and I understand it. But if you do have the ability, it's a really important thing to try to make your games look a little bit better, because people, I mean, we just did a podcast about this on the Game 4 podcast, me and Game 4 Matt. We talked about, does presentation really matter? And it really does. It really doesn't. Like, really, the rules are the most important thing, in my opinion. But in this day and age specifically, if your presentation isn't good, people are just not even going to pay attention to the rules. Like, think about, like, board games that don't have any art on the front of the box, and the board is really boring, or it's all black and white or something like that. That's a hard sell to pull off, really. If you're using it maybe as some sort of gimmick, okay, maybe a different story. But yeah, a lot of people are buying a board game specifically because they look at it and they go, that is gorgeous. It's got really cool little parts and all the artwork's gorgeous and everything, and it's just a thing that sparks joy, as they say, as you're like taking it apart, opening it, starting to play, all that kind of stuff. It's kind of important. Printed books all the way for me, says CJW. Yeah, I mean, I can understand that. I also can understand that when we moved into this house 10 years ago, I and my wife had to bring in 30 boxes of books. Books are not light. My wife's got a definite book collection, and I carried in a whole bunch of books in my iPad, and they were in my backpack, and it was fine. You know what I mean? Like, so, but I understand it, especially now. I've been, like I said, been pretty surprised by the amount of people that bought the print version of Reign in Hell, so we're going to continue to do the print versions as well. The print versions, you see a lot of people also on Wargame Vault, not doing print versions of their books, only doing PDF, even though there's no upfront cost per se. Like, it's not like you're having to print 10,000 books and then they're sitting in your garage and you have to mail them out. They're print on demand, and they're good print on demand books. As it turns out, I don't have... Oh, no, I do. Yeah. Like, the quality is really good, and I was really surprised by how nice it was. Color we went with black and white on the insides because it makes it a cheaper book and it's easier for people to buy. And then that way you're paying $15 for a book instead of 30 or something like that. That all being said, it takes more work to set up the book for print than it does to set up the book just for PDF only. And I think that's also a limiting factor to some folks because you have to have bleed. When you're printing up to the edge of something, you don't just have the artwork go up to the edge and then it just stops. The artwork has to go past it on the printing press, and then they have to trim it. And so there's things you have to do to your file to make it so that it's digital print stuff. But yeah, there's a decent amount of extra work if you're deciding to work for print. But if you're just doing it for PDF, like literally once you're pretty much happy with the way PDF done, you can publish the game like right now. Whereas, well, also with the print version, you have to get them to send you a proof, and you have to okay the proof, and that can take a couple of weeks and all that stuff. And so, yeah. Planning on getting Rain in Hell soon, but I was definitely going to go for the print version. It's nice to have a complete and tangible game in all one convenient book. Yeah, I mean, that's true. I totally understand that. Don't you have to do layout even with digital? You do. It's just you have to do a slightly different layout. And it's not a huge difference. Honestly, if you do the print version layout, it's not real hard for you to then also turn that into the PDF version layout. So it's, I don't understand why more people don't do the print version, but because especially since people like to buy it, but you do have to do things differently. If you're designing just for PDF, it's very simple, 8.5 by 11 or whatever size page you're going to use. You don't have to worry about bleeds. You don't have to worry about some other kind of printer type stuff, transparencies and this and that and the other thing. So yeah, it is a little bit easier to design for PDF only, but once you've designed the print version, it's not too hard to then turn that also into the PDF version. So, it's is it important for you to put that extra time up front, or is it important for you to use that on something else? That's a personal preference for every game designer out there. Got the physical copy because nothing beats pulling out the rulebook. See, yeah, and that's the thing. I'm fine with PDFs, but I'm glad to know that people also like to print stuff because we'll keep making it. Let's see here. They just have some fungus on the outside. They've been adding pinkish to orcs and grots for a while now. I think it's based on one of the confrontation painters' techniques. The green that colors the skin is apparently just something in the skin. On the inside, they're pinkish red like humans. See, I always thought they were like plants. They were like spores or some junk like that. I don't pay close attention to orc lore, frankly. I do have the new orc book, the Codex, but I haven't read the lore on it at all. Orcs used to bleed green, but it got retconned a long time ago now. Well, that makes more sense then. Good old retcon. There you go. Orcs' blood has changed from green to red and back again for many years. So, I mean, yeah, if they've got red blood, then this paint job makes a ton more sense, because if you're predominantly green on the outside, but you've got red blood, then yeah, you would have, in certain spots, you'd be pinker than you would be green in that situation due to that. Like if you had blue blood, then you would be bluer in those spots, like at the knuckles, or the elbows and stuff like that where the skin gets thinner, I guess. I don't know. It's not important, but it's stuff I think about. That and orc zippers. Let's see here. Well, now I don't need to check that your delivery turned up. Cheers. Oh, yeah, no, I'm sorry. Yeah, it did. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, I ordered that cool green monolith thing and some other bits and pieces. And then Nick also threw in Brutal Quest and some other stuff as well. So, yeah. Actually, I'm going to turn that big green monolith that you've got on the website, I'm going to turn that into a shrine for Rain in Hell. I bought this thing, which I've currently taken. The reason I had this empty thing sitting here right next to me on the desk is because it's a good block for cats. So Margot likes to jump up here, but I can set this here during recording, and then she's less likely to jump up on it because it's in the way. It's kind of like when you put tin foil on your counter so the cats stop jumping up on there, except I'm not covering the dining room table in tin foil yet. That all being said, yeah, WizKids makes these pillars and banners thing, and so I've got these extra banners, or not, extra pillars, and I'm going to put these next to the monolith thing on a base and make it look like an old ruined shrine, so that's going to be fun. Maybe I'll make a video about it. But anyway, yeah, that monolith thing is very cool. You folks should check it out over at Mammoth Miniatures. When you take a mushroom and squish it a bit, it discolors to many different colors. This is orc conversation again. I was just like, why are we talking about mushrooms? But now I get it. Yep, I got you. The orcs will always just be some nasty greenskin aliens from Rogue Trader for me. It doesn't have to be so deep and profound. Well, that's fine. That's not a problem. Have you checked out Star Trek Adventures from Odysseus? I want to try it, but the price is holding me back. No, I don't. Is that an RPG? Because didn't they do the Star Trek RPG? I'm not a big RPG player. Let's see here. Monopoly has sold millions of repaints. Presentation is everything. Well, sure. I mean, Monopoly's sold also, like, there's been, like, there's been 40K Monopoly, right? I think there's been 40K Monopoly. I swear there's been 40K Monopoly. Maybe there's not. I know there's been Walking Dead Monopoly, and there's been a lot of other types of Monopoly as well. Even if the orcs were to bleed green, they would still be often painted as if they have red blood, because that's how our brains read humanoid things as alive. That sounds like science. That's very possible. I can understand that. Dude, there are so many pink and red fungi. I'm not a fungi scientist. I don't know that, Matt. But anyway, yeah. I just was, again, that and orc zippers is what I was thinking about. I also want to know how that little Gretchen Grat the guy can see when he's got zipped. Well, you can still see his eyes, can't you? You just is it just his nose and his eyes? I forget. I don't know if he's going to be part of my list, because I was going over in the Octarius book trying to figure out what 10 orcs I was going to build out of the, whatever, 13 or 14 or 15 orcs that are available. And I don't know if I'm going with that guy. I think I'm going to go with the bomb squig, though, because I have never painted a squig before, and it sounds like fun. Robert Fox says, yeah, I went PDF only for my first book, thinking about going back and doing something rad with it. Well, that sounds like fun, since I've got some good software and motivation. It's fun to do things that are rad. Yeah, no, I mean, you know, you could do a second edition, or just do, if it's PDF only, you could even just say, hey, I made a new version, upload it, and everybody who bought the old version would get access to the new version, or, you know, make a new game, or whatever you want to do. But yeah, absolutely. Glad to be able to join the live stream from sunny Alberta. Nice. First time watching live. Thanks for the channel. Absolutely. Thank you. I thought the same. Orcs are a fungus that grow underground and emerge from spores. That's why they are so hard to get rid of once they settle down in a world. I think that's maybe old story, and I don't know if that's still the new story. I probably should look through the codex and figure out what goes on there. What happens if you lick an orc? That's a loaded question. I'm not sure. I don't know. If you lick an orc, your teeth get knocked out. See, that's what Yuri says, and I don't think that that's necessarily a wrong answer for sure. Hello from Trondheim, Norway. I am cleaning brushes and painting my new Age of Sigmar terrain models. Nice. I see a lot of people complaining about rule changes and stuff for Kill Team, but, like, you don't have to play the new version, right? Am I missing something? There's a lot of salt going around. No, you don't. I mean, if you like to play competitively, then you probably do, because the competitive scene will move on almost always to the newest version of any game. So if you're going to be playing, if you like to play in tournaments or anything like that, yeah, then you do. But if you and your friends want to hang out and just play whatever you want, yeah, absolutely. I've got a friend that I play Star Wars X-Wing with, and we never moved on to the new 2.0 version of the whole thing. We just stuck with the old stuff, and it's fine. We just play against each other, and we have a good time, and we don't need to necessarily update. The issue is that a lot of people do like to try to keep up with the new stuff, because maybe they do play in some tournaments, even if it's a small tournament at their local store or something like that. The other thing is that if you and your small group of folks decide all together, we're going to stay and just play this one version, and that's fine. You can do that. But if you're the type of person who likes to go to your local club or your local store and play against people that you meet or bump into there or whatever, very frequently those folks are not necessarily part of your tight-knit group that's stuck with version last, and they're instead moved on, and now you're like, oh, let's play, and then then it's not compatible. So, you know, there's a lot of questions about whether or not 3 years is necessary. Do we need a new version every 3 years? Because I got to tell you, folks, if we're following that same 3-year thing, next summer, less than a year from now, new version of Warcry is coming out, because Warcry came out in 2019. So, you know, it feels like Warcry just came out, but we're already going to be getting a new version next summer if they stick to the same pattern that they've been sticking to with Warhammer 40,000, Age of Sigmar, and Kill Team, because all of those have been on a 3-year cycle. Warcry will probably also be on a 3-year cycle. The only reason it might not would be because of COVID. I could potentially see them bumping it another year just because COVID. Now, why didn't they bump Kill Team because of COVID? Because probably that was... This stuff never happens like Vince and I, Reign in Hell took us about 9 months to make, but it's a single book and you make your own, figure out your own models and all that kind of stuff. When you make a rule set and the thing and the lore and all the artwork and then all the models and the terrain and all that jazz, that's a 2 to 3 year process. So literally they probably started working on the new version of Kill Team almost immediately after launching the previous version in 2018. So, do I think that maybe a 4 or 5 year is a better idea? I do, but I'm also not a multi-billion-dollar company, so with shareholders and all that jazz. So yeah, you and your friends can absolutely keep playing the previous version. You can also tweak the rules. You can make changes. That's what's cool about tabletop gaming in general, is you can do what you want with it. Whereas lots of other games, let's say video games, in some situations, sure, you can mod a video game to make it do the thing you want, but most people don't know necessarily how to do that. And if you're playing online, then that won't work in a lot of situations. When they make updates, those updates happen for everybody, and then there you are, and that's what you got to deal with. So that's one of the things I like about tabletop games is that, like, we used to have a rule, some of the guys that I used to play 40K with back in the day, that basically if you wanted to try to steal initiative, you could do it. At the beginning, you lost initiative or whatever, rolled off, and now I'm going to steal initiative. That's great. But there was a consequence. If you rolled a 1, then it did some stuff to you further down the road. So instead of just being like, well, of course I'm going to try to steal initiative, there was an actual choice you had to make. Because it made more sense to us to not just be like, yeah, sure, of course I'm going to try to steal initiative. No. If you do roll a 1, then there's a thing. So that kind of stuff, being able to add in those things, I think is very cool. I still paint my greenskins with red eyes. It has to be done. That makes sense. My cat is not impeded by such obstacles. All my minis are hairy. Well, see, that's the other trick, too, is that I do all my painting and stuff in the basement, and then no cats in the basement. Every once in a while, sometimes Diesel will run down the stairs and get by me, but it's pretty rare. Can orcs feel love? Maybe. Maybe. Let's see here. Gotta say, from every single competitive player of Kill Team, I'm hearing nothing but good about the new Kill Team. Have you had more chance to play the new Kill Team and possibly reconsider the disappointment? No, I haven't. Number 2, the disappointment is more, again, and I think I maybe didn't make this as clear as I would have liked to in the original Octarius box thing. I like the rules. Like, they're very much like Warcry, because it's, instead of being the here's my weapon skill or my ballistic skill and my toughness and strength and blah blah blah, like old 40K, like 40K light, it's more of a, this weapon you throw 4 dice, you're hitting on 3s, this is what happens. It's either 3 damage / 4 damage if you get crits. Like, I like that system, so I'm glad they went in that direction. There's things they took out that I'm kind of bummed about, and I don't like the measuring sticks and all that stupid shenanigans. So overall, highs and lows, the game came out, that's why I called it okay. What my real disappointment is in the compendium. The fact that that is a $50 book that you have to buy, and then all the lists, pretty much all the lists that are in there are incredibly dull, especially when you compare them to the 2 lists that come in the Octarius book. Building a list out of the Veteran Guardsmen, aka the Krieg, or the Orc Commandos, gives you some very flavorful, interesting lists. You can do some really cool stuff with those, and that's cool because you've got spotters and medics and sneaky guys and this and that, all that stuff. It's really great. Bomb squigs. Most of the rest of the lists that are in that compendium are all just, hey, you get some gene stealers. Do you get any special abilities for them? Nah, Do you get a special action for them? And sometimes you get a unique action. Sometimes you get a little bit of this. But, like, especially also in Space Marines. Like, they're all just, like, there's just pages and pages of nothing going on in that Space Marine section because they don't have any special abilities and they don't have any unique actions, most of them. 90%. So, that's the bummer. Now, if that had come out as a series of free PDFs, like they do with War Scrolls over in Age of Sigmar land, I would have not been nearly as unhappy. But that book, $50, I feel like it was a cash grab, and I don't agree with it. And the reason that they're doing it this way is because coming next quarter, they're going to release probably a box set of new sculpts of Space Marines that are going to have very interesting, flavorful lists, where you can have like a medic guy who's probably an apothecary, you can have a comms guy, you can have a demolition guy, you have all this different stuff, and you build the models, and they're going to try to do that for as many of the armies as they can. But then you're not just going to be able to use your 40K models, because they don't want you to use your 40K models. They want you to buy new models. That's how it goes. So I get that. We may see something very much like that with, I was going to say we may see something like that with Warcry, except Warcry is simpler than even the new kill team, because you don't have a lot of special abilities, you don't have a lot of unique actions, things like that. Now, if they decide to add that to the next version of Warcry, mark my words, the regular Age of Sigmar models will have a very dull compendium-like book that will probably come out at the same time, and it will be the same gig. So, I don't know. Again, like I said, the rules itself for for Kill Team are not bad. They're very much like Warcry, like I mentioned. But there's a bunch of other things they did that I was not a super big fan of, and then that compendium is just wrong-headed on its face. It just doesn't make sense, and that's my opinion on it. So yeah, I'm looking forward, like I said, to playing it. But I just want to play it with the two flavorful lists that come in the box. That's why I want to build the orcs. Part of the reason why I'm talking about this today. But yeah, I have no plans basically to build any of the teams that are in the compendium, because they're just not super interesting at all, So yeah, personal opinion. All orcs are edible, says moderator Matt. I mean, technically anything's edible if you believe in yourself, but probably, yeah, not a good idea. For the Krieg guys, las pistol seems like a false choice when the bolt pistol is the same but with higher damage. There's a lot of that in those rules. For your Veteran Guardsman Sergeant, you can carry either a chain sword, a power fist, or a power weapon. And as a person who's interested in game design, frankly, Vince is the heavy lifter in the game design area. I'm more the heavy lifter in the art direction, layout, creative-y junk. But I still pay attention to that stuff. It would seem to me that since there's no points in the game, the chainsword should have advantages in one way, but disadvantages in another way, and it should equal out with the power fist, and it should equal out with the power weapon. But looking at the rules, that's not the case at all. The chain sword is demonstrably worse. Like, it doesn't get to swing any more times. It doesn't. I mean, it wouldn't make sense for it to do more damage, but it would make sense if like in the past, like power fists in the game have been like unwieldy. Like that's been the text. That's been the rule that says unwieldy, meaning you have to swing on initiative phase 1, or there's some sort of issue. There's nothing like that in Kill Team, so that just like you'd be stupid to take a las pistol, just like you'd be stupid to take a chainsword. You know what I mean? Now, if you've got a model that's already got a chainsword on it, and you'd be like, well, I guess I'll have to take the chainsword stats, sure. But like the reason that my Tempestus from my previous Imperial Guard list had a bolt pistol and not a plasma pistol, because I'm a big fan of the plasma pistol, because I didn't have the points. I had to figure out a way to shave points, so I'm like, okay, he's going to have to take a plasma pistol. A bolt pistol instead of a plasma pistol. In this new version of the game, you'd be dumb to do it. You know what I mean? Like, there's no reason to it. There's a lot of places where they'll give you 3 different weapons, and just in general, one of them is just way worse. And it's not even like a I feel like it's worse. It's literally like it's got the same amount of swings maybe as the other 2 weapons, but the other 2 weapons just do far more damage and even have special abilities, and that chainsword doesn't have any special abilities, and it's just... So it's an odd choice design-wise that they went that direction. Like in Warcry, there's a lot of things where you're like, okay, well, I have this spear that goes further, which gives it a benefit, but then it maybe doesn't get to swing as many times as somebody who's got like a shorter sword or something like that. So these things equal out. They didn't do that as much in Kill Team, which I think is weird. It's not across the board, but there's plenty of places just me going through trying to look, even in the Octarius rules, which are supposed to be the better version of the, you know, the lists. There's still stuff where I'm just like, well, why would I ever take that weapon? You know what I mean? There's no equaling in that situation. And if there's no points, then weapons should be relatively equal. If you have 3 choices of weapons, but you get to pick any one of them and it doesn't matter points-wise, then they should be kind of equal, but, you know, whatever. Anything's edible if you believe in yourself deserves to be on a t-shirt. Possibly with a Kroot mascot. Well, I like the concept, but I couldn't put a Kroot on a t-shirt because then we would, you know, that would be bad as far as, you know, rules and such. I get that though. But yeah, it sounds like a meme though. Can't stop memes. Uncle Adam, have you seen that Adeptus Mechanicus are getting 12 pages of new kill team rules in the next White Dwarf, same page count as the Octarius teams? I guess no new models for them. I mean, that's, I guess, in my opinion, that's another issue, is that if they're going to start saying, oh yeah, well the rules are going to come out, but it'll be in White Dwarf, that, I don't think that's a good solution either. Frankly, I had a hard time, like, I wanted to buy White Dwarf 465, I believe was the number. 465 had a 4 or 5 page article about the guy, his name is Scott. He runs a thing called Artists Empire, and he's the guy that we paid to take our photographs. Well, we took the photographs. So we took photographs of models, Vince and I, that we had built and painted, and then, hang on, let me get the glare off of there. There we go. And then Artists Empire, Scott went through, we took pictures of them on white backgrounds, and then Scott did this digital thing that he does to make them look like just awesome stuff. Like all the artwork that you see in the book where it's a printed model that has been painted by either Vince or I, and then, let me find a good size. This one's not bad size. So like these models as well. I painted these models. They're 3D prints from Lord of the Prince, and took pictures of them on a white background, and then Scott did all this work, and it was very cool. Anyway, White Dwarf 465 had a 4 or 5 page article about him and his process, and he was doing a bunch of, obviously, Warhammer stuff, and it was very cool, and it just wasn't showing up at my game store, and there was a lot of people that were having a hard time finding it, and it took like almost 2 months. It was basically, it came out about a couple days after 466, or actually before, I take that back. 466 showed up in the store just a couple days later, and it just took forever. So if that's what you have to hunt around and try to find so that you can play a better rule system of AdMech, then that's going to be a real limiting factor for people. If I have to carry around 2 books, the core book, the compendium, now also a copy of White Dwarf, it's yeah. Anyway, Chainsword is different than Power Weapon compared to each other for Veteran Sergeant. I don't understand the sentence. Sorry, BB. Yeah, Chainsword, you, as a Veteran Sergeant, you get to choose either Chainsword, Power Fist, or Power Weapon. And by Power Weapon, it could be, I guess, technically a Power Maul, but it's probably a Power Sword in that situation. But they refer to it as Power Weapon. So at least you get that option. But like I said, the Chain Fist is demonstrably worse than the other 2 choices. So Monument paints are seriously great. I was honestly surprised how much thought went into making them work better. They are very, very good. I'm a big fan. Kelly says, I ordered Proctoral paints yesterday with the 10% off coupon code from Tabletop Minions. Nice. Can't wait to see how they are in comparison. Yeah, I've been a super big fan. That's what I use. That is my go-to opaque paint, is the Monument paints, the Pro Acryl. My pot of Cantor Blue is almost dried up. Well, that's a bummer. How long will paint pots last if you don't use them? It depends on the paint pot. Some paint pots are not as water or airtight as you would like. Generally, dropper bottles will last a pretty decent, good long time. Whereas pop-top type bottles, like the stuff from Citadel, stuff from... well, actually, the pop-top bottles from Privateer Press, the P3 paints, are pretty good, generally. Although I have had one sort of go dry on me. That could have just been a bad bottle. Just getting into 40K in painting. Any advice for painting small details on models with less than steady hands? The main trick to trying to steady your hands more, is, in my opinion, is you want your elbows here. This is an elbow. This is one too. You need to lock them down to your side. Keep them up against your torso. And then, when you're painting, I don't have a brush here. Do I? No, I don't. I have a pen. Let's say this pen is a brush. So here's your model. Here's your... It's all about keeping your hands together like this. So you're holding the model here, you've got your wrists together like that, and you are painting, and you're supporting your fingers like this, and you're constantly keeping your hands together. You don't want to do this. Elbows akimbo and trying to paint like that. That's where the tremors come. That's not where the tremors come from, but they get amplified by doing like this. So you need to keep your arms together. If you've got a chair or a table that you can put your elbows on, that's fine too, but you need to lock them together in some fashion to keep them steady, and then your wrists go together like this, and then your hands stay together like this, and you paint like that, and that's how you keep it as steady as possible. Because even if you've got the tremor, then they're working together, and the brush and the model are not moving separate from each other, but the whole thing can be moving a little bit, and it's okay. Also, a good idea is to take the model and to either attach it to a paint pot with some poster putty, or get one of those pinchy handle things that GW sells, or any of the other companies that sell stuff like that. A big handle, especially if you've got big hands like I do, a big handle to hold onto the miniature is way better than trying to hold it by the base, because the base is very easy to wiggle. Like, just trying to keep it pinched in there, you'll get some wiggle. When you've got a big, huge thing that you're holding onto it like this, and your fist, it's just easier to do that. So yeah, that's the pro strat for the most part, to help. Also, some people find that if they drink caffeine at a certain time of day, it gives them a little bit more of a tremor. Some people find that they can paint better in the morning than they can in the night, or vice versa. It all kind of depends on your personal physiology and how that all works. Let's see here. Just checked Warhammer Vault. They've added the first 3 White Dwarf magazines from 2021. Hopefully they will add the rest. They're up to 462 at the moment. Wow. 465 had an issue in printing because it came with a poster. Sure. I mean, but again, that's now, it's just becomes harder to find and all that kind of stuff. And when you put rules into White Dwarf, you are fracturing the player base. It's just kind of the way it works, because someone maybe doesn't get it. Their local shop doesn't carry it. They couldn't find it. They didn't know about it. You know, it's always a situation. Some of my original Citadel paints bought in 1989 are still good in liquid. Yeah, I mean, I've heard that before from a lot of people, and I think it has something to do with the design of the pots. I really like the Monument Hobbies white primer for Zenithals. Yeah, same here. That is my go-to white primer for Zenithal these days. I've used their black brown, and it seems to rub off a lot easier than Vallejo primer. Have you experienced that? I haven't had that issue with black brown rubbing off, because I used it on several of my demons that I just painted. I used it on that big Redemptor Dreadnought that I've been messing with on Twitch recently. But I haven't, yeah, that was the base color on a lot of those models. Specifically the big Dreadnought, but also, like I said, on some, not all. Some of the demons I used a regular black color for the primer base, but some of them I used the black brown, and I haven't had any kind of rubbing off issues. You can put your forearms against the angle of a table to steady the wrists. Also, some shooting practice helps. Holding something heavy while the arm is stretched out to the side. I mean, I don't know that that's necessary. I mean, I'm sure it helps. I don't know that you should go out and buy a gun necessarily to get your painting to work better, but I don't know. If you've already got one, well, I guess there's that. Let's see here. It's hard to be a GW fan in northern Lapland, Finland. No Warhammer 40k, Age of Sigmar, other stores in Lapland. Either you take a 2 to 3 hour road trip to the city of Oulu, or buy online and wait weeks. Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I suppose if you live remotely enough, you're probably not going to find a lot of stores for games in general. But maybe you do. Maybe you have a game store that's localish that just doesn't carry any GW stuff. A lot of game stores that sell miniatures are probably going to carry GW stuff, but if you don't have the stuff, yeah, I can understand that. I was wondering if you had any tips for making a kill team list, specifically Astra Militarum. not with the... Well, I mean, you just follow the rules that are in the book now, or in the compendium. So basically, you've got however many models. You can take a fire team of Scions, and you can take a fire team of regular guard, or you can take 2 of the regular guard. I forget. I don't have the book here with... I think it's in the basement. Yeah. But yeah, you basically... I mean, the list building is easier now because you don't have as many choices. So I guess there's that. But yeah. Let's see here. Rain and Hell has been a big hit at my local club. Oh, that's good to hear. Are there any other skirmish games people would suggest that you can use Age of Sigmar models for? Well, you could do something like that with Brutal Quest. You could do that. What's another good fantasy small skirmish company game? Well, I mean, if you're into the one-page rules stuff, they do definitely have like a... They don't call it Age of Sigmar. They call it Age of something else. Age of Fantasy, I think. Age of Fantasy Skirmish, which is basically a little... I don't know if it's necessarily like Warcry, but it is definitely like a skirmishy version of Age of Sigmar. So yeah, one-page rules is a good place to look for that kind of stuff as well. I've been using Vallejo Mecha Primer White for Zenithal highlighting. Is looking for a really bright finish for the base coat. Nice. I was using generally... For a while, I was using white Liquitex acrylic ink as my Zenithal spray for the white. But you have to mix... If you're going to be using it with contrast paints, which I very frequently do, you have to kind of mix it with the white with some matte varnish. Otherwise, the contrast paint can kind of screw up or reactivate the white acrylic ink, which you don't want then, obviously. So then you add in some matte varnish to it, and then that kind of helps to protect it from the contrast. But now I'm just using the stuff from... I'm using the stuff from Monument, the white primer from them, and I've been really super happy with it. Is the current thinner-looking Citadel Mark II painting handle better, worse, or really not any different in practical use than the old version? I like the smaller head on it. It still holds the same diameter bases as the regular one, but it's not as like chunky. Like obviously it's not to scale, but the current like normal one, if you look at it top down, is a bigger rectangle, whereas the new Citadel handle has got a much skinnier kind of like thing to it. It's almost kind of hourglass shaped, and so it's nice when you're trying to paint the underside of something. You're not bumping your brush into the head that holds on to the base of the model. So I like that part. The old Citadel handles, you could unscrew from the head, and then there was a 1/4-20 socket underneath there, which is the same size as like a camera tripod. When you screw a camera tripod into the bottom of your camera, same size screw there. So that I never did it, but it would be nice if you could just take the head off and put it onto a tripod for some reason, like if you're holding a model for photography or something like that or whatever. I don't know. You can't do that with the new one. New one, the head doesn't come off. If I'm honest, I don't like the new one quite as much because it's so skinny, right? Like you've seen the new one, I hope, where you get the head and then it comes down real narrow and then it flares out the base and then it's flat so you can sit it down. I feel like I've got nothing to grab right underneath the handle. I don't know if this is making any sense. I don't have one of them up here to show you, but yeah. I personally prefer the older ones, but I like the head on the newer ones. So if they could maybe put the skinnier head on the older handle that was bigger and chunkier and removable from it, then that would be perfect. But I don't know if they're going to go that way. The new guard heads are great. Be even better on some new body sculpts. Yeah, I don't know what that was all about. I don't know why they just decided, yeah, these 20-year-old body sculpts will be fine. We'll just keep using them. We'll throw in a sprue with some new heads and weapons, though. I was confused by that, but whatever. I'm assuming there's probably something down the road where they're going to completely restart the line, and they thought that this was a stopgap for now. I don't know. It's very strange. Newbie. Sorry, guys, I'm out. I was wanting to hear your opinion on the new models when assembling them. It's just been an hour of you reading the chat. All the best, folks. Yeah, I don't do that here. I don't build models on the chat. Sorry. And I don't have any of the new models either. I have the codex, but I don't have any of the models. So yeah, I'm just going to be building some orcs personally, so I was kind of talking a little bit about that. This show is basically me talking with chat and answering. And so, yeah, if you want to watch me paint stuff, come by Twitch. But I don't build. I can't build and talk at the same time. I can barely paint and talk at the same time, but I certainly can't build and talk at the same time. If you go all the way back to the very first episode of the Every Other Sunday show, you could see me try to build and talk at the first time, and it did not work. So, so yeah. Sorry if that was confusing. Prefer the chunky old Citadel handled myself. I've got big hands. Yeah, same here. Monument just put out a translucent white paint, and my mind is seriously blown with the implications. Yeah, it's a transparent white. I've got a bottle of it, and I haven't tried it yet, and I still don't know quite. I want to figure out what to do with it, because I've got some ideas as well. Yeah, so I want to check it out. New handle is more tippy. Yeah, I can see that too. I added weight to the base of my GW and Game Envy holders. Gave a better feel and balance, in my opinion. Yeah, I can see that too, yeah. I find the model is prone to popping off the new handle, but I do prefer the skinny handle. I haven't had that issue, but, I mean, because it's narrower, but it still seems to grip. At least mine seems to grip as well, but maybe it's a slightly different angle situation. Thoughts on Warhammer Imperium? Magazine? I haven't seen it at all. I mean, I've heard of it, but I have not seen it or anything like that. Take the two handles, cut the parts off you like them, graft those two parts together, make your own custom mutant super handle. Except that I need a lot of handles, so I don't want to buy two handles so that I could get one that I like. You know what I mean? Plus, I think the old handle's out of print now. I don't think they make the old one anymore. But yeah, I mean, that would be the way to go, except then you would end up, you know, paying for two handles to get one, and that seems like a lot of money. Again, if you just had like one or two handles that you used all the time, that's great. But I have, of the old handles, I have, I think 14, but maybe 15 that I bought over the course of the time from when they announced them to when they started doing the new ones. The new ones I think I only have one or two of, but the old ones I have 14. And it was partially because at one point I was painting 13 Skaven for my Warcry warband, the 13 as they're known, and they're Plague Monks. And so I didn't want to have to be swapping them back and forth. And I think at that point I already had maybe 10 handles. So I just went out and bought like 3 more. This was before the price hike. And so then it, you know, worked out well that way. I do love how GW destroyed Cadia, eradicated it in the lore, and still keep Cadians as the only plastic guard. Yeah, that's the thing. I'm wondering if they're going to be releasing something. You know what I mean? Something new down the road, maybe in a year or two. Do you play War Machine and Hordes, Uncle Adam? I played War Machine back in 1.5, I think is what they called it, Mark 1.5, something like that, and I played a little bit of Mark 2. Probably one of my last games of Mark 2 was playing against Sam Lenz, and he had Troll Bloods and I had my Khador, and I got stomped hard, and it just never... Honestly, the main issue that I had with War Machine was that it became, well, a lot of people called it Troop Machine, because it became much more about the troops that you had, much less about the war machines you had. And I liked the War Machine aspect of it, and wasn't super interested in painting a whole bunch of troops, but that was the way the rule set went. And then when 3rd edition came out, they were going to tweak things and say, hey, now we've made it more. And from what I've been told by a lot of people, it didn't seem to change things a ton. So, yeah, I didn't pull the trigger. Plus, nobody in my area plays it that I know of. There used to be a decent-sized crew of people playing it down in the Milwaukee area, but that's like a good hour and 45 minutes away. So, but yeah, I have, and like I said, I was a Khador guy, but I have not done it in a long time. Haven't read the new Kill Team rules, but heard from another YouTube vid that there's equipment points. Is that for buying weapon options, or are equipment other special rules accessories? It kind of depends on the army a little bit, but yeah. When you are playing a normal, let's say, non-campaign style game, you pretty much get 10 points to spend on equipment. And then for each of the different lists, for each of the different factions, there's a different equipment list. So you can spend, and some things you can only buy one of, and some things you can buy multiples of. So you could give, like, you know, this particular piece of equipment to 4 of your people in there because it costs 1 point each. Now you got 6 points left. You spend 3 on this thing, and then 2 on this thing, and 1 on another thing, or whatever. So you do get that option. It's a little bit of flavor to some degree on some of the lists. and when you're playing campaign, it's handled a bit differently. But yeah, you've got that option, so you can make some tweaks that way. But it is, and some of the stuff is like, it's not like weapons generally. It's more like I think Auspex, like you had in the previous game, like you just picked an Auspex, you paint points for it, and you put it on a guy. I think that's now like an equipment thing for the Space Marines, the Omni, whatever the heck thing is for Adeptus Mechanicus, Omnispecs? Anyway, different little things like that. You have those kind of extra options here and there in the equipment list. And then there's, like I said, a different equipment list for each of the different factions. All the talk of paint handles is making me wonder if it's time to upgrade from corks and old paint pots. Or do you feel it's a luxury item? For years and years, I used pill bottles with poster putty. So I had a lot of pill bottles laying around from taking prescription drugs, and then it was a decent sized, handle, and then I would use poster putty and then stick the model on there, kind of twist it on there real good, and they worked fine. The downside is that I've got a lot of miniatures that when you flip them over and look at the underside of the base, there's still poster putty stuck in there that's kind of hard to get out or whatever. So it's a little bit of the handles are nice. The main reason I like the handles is just because it is very simple to just pop that model off of there, because it's like spring-loaded, kind of squeezing the base. Pop that model off and then put a different model on quick if you need to paint something else. As opposed to, because when you have it attached to something via glue, some people will use glue sometimes, some people will use poster putty, there's a lot of different options. It's a little bit more of a, if you need to take that handle and switch it out with something else, it's harder to do. So that's one of the reasons why I like the pinchy ones like this, from Games Workshop in specific. But there's other companies that are doing things that are kind of like it. Sometimes they use rubber bands or whatever, and like MDF, I've seen some people make MDF holders, and there's some rubber bands that hold the base part down and that kind of stuff. I've seen lots of different options, but the very quick ease of taking these models, okay, I need to repaint some other stuff, or I need to work on this, so I'm going to take these 5 models off of these handles and set them over here, put these other 5 models on there, and then work. I like that flexibility, I guess. Are there 3D printable handles close to GW ones now? I think so, but not sure. I don't know about close to, because they're not spring-loaded per se, but maybe they are with rubber bands and stuff. But I'm sure, I know there's 3D printed handles out there. I just don't know exactly what their gripping function is like, you know what I mean? Have you looked at 3D printed handle options? That's another question. I have some big spherical wooden drawer pulls, cheap to buy at craft shops. I put a poster tack on them. You could add a screw-in grabber head there too. That's kind of cool. Krieg plastic guard. This replaces the old kit and forces new heavy weapon purchases. Drop the partial kit a few months before showing it off. Not really compatible replacement box. Interesting. In a hobby which supports customization and conversions, buying 2 hobby handles to make 1 super handle should not come as a surprise. It shouldn't, but it's not particularly... It doesn't make sense monetarily. You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of the thing. And also because it's not a consumable, in theory, like hopefully these, even the old handles, should last me a good long time. I shouldn't need to buy more than I currently have. The reason I bought the 2 new ones was frankly just to... The first one I bought just because I was like, hey, I just want to try it out, see if it's any better or whatever. And then the second one I bought... I don't remember why, but I did buy... I think maybe I forgot that I bought the first one. I'm not 100% sure, but I do have 2 of them. Like I said, there are times when I'm trying to get like just at the right angle that I will actually swap a model from one of the old ones onto the new ones because the head is smaller that holds onto the base of the miniature, and then it's easier for me to get my paintbrush like up underneath the cloak or whatever, that kind of thing. So yeah, there's a benefit to that, but I don't generally use them a ton. I like the old ones better. I enjoy using the J method, double-sided tape on a wooden cube. I don't know why I've never used double-sided tape. I used to always, like I said, use the poster putty. But double-sided tape on top of a pill bottle would have probably been made more sense, possibly. I use the pill bottle poster putty ghetto handles. I got a Primaris infiltrator on one at the moment. Yeah, like I said, I used those for years, and they worked. The pill bottle and poster putty, they worked really well. I just use empty Vallejo paint bottles and for painting handles. Empty Vallejo paint bottles, because they're. But are you talking about like the dropper bottles? Because I would think that would be difficult. Like I could see like P3 bottles. I could see even Games Workshop kind of bottles if you were going to stick stuff to that. But the dropper bottles I would think would be hard to use, but I could be wrong. I've got a 3D printed one that works with rubber bands. Works fine. Yep, I can see that. What do you think of the new Hero Quest game that's been remade? The miniature sculpts look good. Looking forward to accessing it in the UK and Almighty Show. Formidable content. I never played Hero Quest as a younger person when it originally came out, so I don't have that nostalgic thing. Yeah, I mean, it's cool that they're doing it. The one thing that sort of bothered me was that Hasbro decided that they needed to crowdfund it. They're a humongous company, and it's a very popular game. It does not seem like a thing that needs crowdfunding. But yeah, that's what they did. So I didn't pull the trigger on it when it was originally going to crowdfunding, and I don't see myself doing it. I'm frankly not a board gamer. Not a big fan of board games in general. And that's a little board gamey for me, so that's not probably something I'm going to end up doing. But I'm glad that people that have the nostalgic kind of thing for that game are getting a chance to go ahead in that direction, and that they've updated the sculpts to some degree. How reusable is double-sided tape? That's a good question, as I've not used it, but I don't think it's crazy reusable. The thing you really don't want is, like, while you're painting your miniature to fall off of the handle, whatever it is. That's a real bummer, I think, as the kids say. And so, yeah, that's what would concern me about that kind of stuff. Like, every once in a great while it happened with poster putty, but not too frequently. And it's never yet happened with the pinchy spring-loaded handle things from GW, so I guess that's a benefit in their column there. Pill bottoms are generally too small. It makes my hands cramp. That's why I went to big. See, I have these big, like, when you get pills, sometimes, like, instead of just like in a monthly supply, but like in a 90-day supply, they come in a much bigger bottle that is bigger around, and then it gives a good help. But you're right. Like a normal small one, that would be too small for my hands. Rough edge of the wood is great for soaking up the excess paint from my brush when I wick that on my finger. Oh, that's a good idea, yeah. Hero Quest is entirely nostalgia sales. It was a solid game in the day, but it does not stand up to modern dungeon crawlers. It'd be interesting to see someone do a comparison between that and Descent, I think, yeah. I made my own 3D printed handles with swappable bases with double-sided foam tape to hold the minis. Nice, Pro JG. I love that we can do that kind of stuff now, where you can, like, literally you can have some relatively simple software like Tinkercad or something like that, design a thing, print it, and now you have your own device of your own devising and get to do what you want. You know, that's very cool. I dig that stuff. I want to see a reissue of Space Hulk. That would be an excellent game for my Gaslands group. I mean, honestly, I feel like they're a little behind. Like, there should be a new version of Space Hulk. They have a really weird relationship with Space Hulk, and I don't understand why. I kind of wish that... I've said for years, one of my earliest videos was a video, something about, like, why don't game companies like money, or something like that. And it was about, like, why is Space Hulk just not always available? It should just be an evergreen product that is always available for people to buy. It's what got me into Games Workshop. It was the first Games Workshop game I played. I think it would help a ton. It would be a smart move. It should just be always available. They should just always constantly be making more and more of it so that, you know, people can buy it at any time. But they don't work that way. What would your top 240k factions be for model range overhaul? Well, the Guard definitely needed a good overhaul, for sure. I don't care about the Eldar because I don't like elves, but I do know that they need an overhaul. So I will be gracious and give it to the space elves. How about that? Yeah, like I said, not a fan of the Eldar in any way, really. I mean, I'm not, like, angry at people who play them. Well, my friend Kevin sometimes is a little angry with him, the way he plays them. But we haven't played in a long time, 40k in general, so it's fine. But, yeah, the Eldar obviously need a new... they need an update visually, you know. because a lot of those models are wicked old, and the Guard as well, in my opinion. I just spray glue on my hand and stick models to them. Works great for cleaning lint off the couch, too. I can't find any fault in that. Yeah, absolutely. I found double-sided tape works well for making sanding sticks with coffee stirrers. Wasn't Descent the game that guaranteed your girlfriend or wife would leave you over? I don't know. I've never played it. I kicked around the idea. I was at a game convention, I don't know, 3-4 years ago, something like that, and they had like a game auction where basically people bring games that they don't want anymore and they put it up there and you have a thing. And it's not like an auction like where you're like saying, you know, I'll bid and this. It's more like a silent type auction where you write down, you know, like starting at $50, and then you put you basically, most game auctions that I've been to, you paid like $1 and then you get a number, and then that's your number for writing on the sheets and saying my number is 5625 and I'll give you $65 for it. And then somebody else comes along, and then if they're going to write below it, they have to write a higher number, and that's kind of how you go back and forth. Anywho, I was looking at a big collection of either first or second edition, I forget, Descent. And I was like, do I want to get into Descent? And it was a pretty good price. It would have been actually a good steal. And I just didn't pull the trigger. So I think sometimes it's a good idea to have more, have less games than more sometimes, or not just keep adding to a pile, but I know that's kind of crazy. Space Hulk needs Terminators. It has Terminators. That's it's Terminators versus Gene Stealers. Unless you mean like Arnold Schwarzenegger Terminators or something like that. I could see that maybe. But no, yeah, it's Space Hulk, the Imperial, the Space Marines are in Terminator armor, and then they're playing against Gene Stealers. Good thing with 3D design and printing is you can iterate until you have something that you like. Took me 5 handles to get one that fit my hand perfectly. Yeah, also true. Yeah. Guard and Eldar, but also Tyranid and Overhaul, says John Ashley Smith. Yeah, I could see that. I hear the new Descent is amazing for story-driven dungeon crawler. I've heard good things too, but I don't know which edition. Is it 3rd edition? 4th edition? I don't know. Probably at least get some new Eldar Rangers for Kill Team. I suspect so. I think that part of what they're planning on doing with Kill Team is being able to release new miniatures to kind of almost get a gauge. Like if they release some new Eldar and then they sell super well, then they'll be like, maybe we should try to bump those Eldar up a little bit on the list for new models for regular 40K. I mean, that's also a possibility. They could be looking at those sales almost as like sales surveys, you know what I mean? Just Goodwin is still working on Eldar. Rumors there's going to be some new soonish. Well, that'd be kind of cool. Do you plan on building Krieg? I already did. Build and paint the Krieg from the box set for Octarius. I think I put pictures on Instagram. Pretty sure I did. So if you go to Instagram and just search for Tabletop Minions, yeah, you can find pictures of my Krieg. I did those, and that's why I'm doing the Orcs next, is because I want to have somebody for the Krieg to play against. Just started a Descent campaign with my board game group. I'm the Overlord, so I'll keep you posted if I have friends after this game. Well, there you go. Isn't there a rights issue with Space Hulk? I think MB Games or someone published it, not GW. I may be wrong, though. I don't think so. Because they've published 2 versions. Like, maybe in the very... Like, Milton Bradley might have been attached in some fashion with the first version back in the late 80s. But I know that they produced a 3rd edition in like 2008, and then another like 3.5 edition in maybe 2010. But it's been a good long time since they produced a new version. Building the Krieg out of the Kill Team box. They're fiddly little models, but I like their details. How are the Orcs to build? I haven't built any yet. Like I said, I'm kind of planning on building them from the Kill Team box. And then, there's another thing. I'm also planning on building some other Orcs for a game called Space Weirdos. So if you got your bingo cards ready to go, Space Weirdos. This is a fun little skirmish game that I picked up off of Wargame Vault. It's by Garsky Games, and it's 16 pages long. I printed mine out like a little booklet, which you can do because he laid it out to work that way, but you can also just use it as a PDF or print out each page separately if you're into that kind of thing. But I'm a nerd who likes to make little booklets, so I did that. And it's a fun little game. There's really not much in the way of narrative in there, but you can kind of make up your own narrative if you want to go down that road. And so I've already done one Space Weirdos group. I kind of took these, I think I've showed some pictures of them before, not here, but on maybe Instagram. I don't know if I've done Instagram on those guys yet. I haven't. But I have done, I think I've showed them off on Twitch a little bit. But they are, I showed them off in a video, not a live video, but I showed them off in a Friday video too, not too long ago. But they're basically House Dalak Necromunda guys who are long coats, long skinny guys in like long coats. And then I just put different heads on them instead of using the normal House Dalak heads, which are basically just bald-headed guys with goggles. And I built those guys, and those are my first Space Weirdos warband. And now I'm going to build one that's going to be one regular orc boy, probably with some sort of heavy shooter or something like that, and he'll be the leader. And then I'm going to be using about 5 different Gretchen from the Gretchen box, which is still a decent little box for $18. And it's just going to be Gretchen with pistols and maybe a hand weapon or whatever. So I'll be using those guys. It's just really fun to build little lists, and then I've really never done Gretchen before. I was going to use these guys originally for Kill Team, for my Orc Kill Team, but now... so yeah, I'm using these guys now instead for Space Weirdos. So 5 of these guys plus 1 regular Orc. And I think I'm going to put... because I have these heads made by, I believe, Cromlech out of Poland. They're one of those companies that makes a lot of bits. And Cromlech makes a lot of like Orc-related bits. And so I have a little blister pack of Orc heads wearing fezzes. So I think that my leader's going to be wearing a fez, which I'll probably paint blue, most likely. Although maybe red. We'll see. I have a red one as well, but the one that I wear on the show when I do wear one is usually blue. So anyway, yeah, that's also a plan going forward on that. I find dungeon crawlers boring. If I'm going to tolerate one, I'll go with Hero Quest and climb on the nostalgia train. Gotcha. Let's see here. I want some Khorne-specific rules, still having to convert Blood Warriors. Do you still dabble in Star Wars Legion? I remember you talking about it a long time ago. I haven't played any since since the pandemic, unfortunately. But I do have an 800-point... Well, I was going to say I have an 800-point list completely painted of Empire. Except I realized just recently that I have a medical droid in that list who is only about half painted. So I have to finish him up, and then I'll have a full 800-point list. Although I think they've changed the points recently, so I don't have any idea if it's even still, I'll just see if what I have to update. But I may still do a Rebel list as well, maybe, and paint that up eventually. But my plan is actually just to keep adding to Empire. But I might do Rebels as well. Although I've got a friend who's doing Rebels, and so that. But what I'm doing now when I'm not painting or working or playing and that stuff is I'm working on terrain. I got a bunch of stuff from ImperialTerrain.com, which is a company that sells pre-made STLs. They're the company that makes that terrain machine that I was talking about earlier, terrainmachine.com. But they also sell completely pre-sculpted STL files that you can buy and download. And so I've got a bunch of Tatooine-style type buildings that I've gotten from them, and have been printed, and I've been painting a bunch of them. I actually textured and did a bunch of airbrush and stuff like that to 3 or 4 of those buildings last weekend. So soon I'll eventually have like a desert planet, because I've got a desert planet 3-foot by 6-foot mat that I got from, I think, Table War, and then and it was on sale, and I got that, and then I've got these buildings that are kind of Tatooine style, and I kind of want to go into Etsy too, because there's people on Etsy who are producing 3D printed like Crash TIE Fighter kind of style looking, things like that, which would be like a cool extra just little thing to have. Although if you're going to have like a village, it'd be weird if there's a TIE Fighter that like crashed almost in the village, but it could happen. You don't know. Space Hulk problem is the extra thick card tiles. They have had those printed in China and won't have printers there making those things nonstop. They need to get some printers in the same country as that they're in. I know that they think that the best way to do this is to get most of their stuff printed in China, but yet they do almost all their plastic they do in the UK. They need to find a printer in the UK that can do this, and I bet you there's one that can do it. And maybe it's slightly more expensive, but then the stuff doesn't have to get shipped from the other side of the planet, which could save them a lot of time and probably money as well. Yeah, no, that's the thing that would be good to fix. Heck, they can just make them out of plastic. Wouldn't I mean, sure, make the box more expensive, but then there you go, plastic tiles, not hard. That's honestly, the plastic tiles is what I wish they would do. Hey, Adam, it's been a long time since I've seen you in your streams. What are some of your current products? I need some inspiration. Well, like I said, I've been working on some terrain, both for Space Weirdos, but also Stargrave. And those are buildings that I designed through terrainmachine.com. You should check out their website. It's kind of cool, actually. You can just kind of spin the building around and pick each side and then pick different things and maybe even move some things around and then create an STL, which you can then print on your filament printer, FDM printer, as they call it. So there's that, and then what else did I've also been working on some terrain for Star Wars Legion. That's kind of a Tatooine-style terrain stuff. Also 3D prints. And I've also just finished up painting a Cabal for a completely 3D printed Cabal, actually, for Reign in Hell, the game that Vince and I published. And that Cabal actually was purchased all completely off of Etsy. Which I think I'm going to make a video about in the future. And then, what else am I working on? I'm going to start working on Twitch. Click. As of tomorrow night, I'm going to start working on a new Warcry warband. I'm building Slaves to Darkness, the basically Chaos Warriors and stuff like that. So I'll be... they're all built, their bases are textured, they've been primed, zenithal, the whole deal, and I will start painting them tomorrow on Twitch at 7 p.m. Central Time, and probably run on them for a while. There's like 5 or 6 Chaos Warriors, there's a Chaos Lord, and there's a Chaos Lord on Crack-a-lack-a-ding-dong, whatever the heck that big dumb lizard is that he's riding on. It was really hard to build, and then I didn't build it right, and then I had to go on eBay and buy one that somebody else built and then didn't paint. If there's ever a situation where you look at a model and you're like, ugh, I don't want to build that, just go on eBay. There's somebody out there who built it and then didn't paint it ever, and then you can just buy theirs, and it's fine. You will have to scrape the mold lines because they probably didn't do that. But other than that, it's generally not a bad plan. Like, if you ever just are like, I hate building, I'm not feeling like building, or whatever the deal is, or like me, just screwed up the build real bad because it's a bad model at that Crack-a-drac or whatever the heck it's called is just a garbage model, and it's completely covered in spikes. So it's really hard to hold together to keep it to glue. It drew blood. It sucked. So yeah, anyway, I'll be starting to paint those folks starting tomorrow. Am I building orcs? Yes, I will be building the orcs that came in the Octarius box. I don't know if I've 100% finished my list, but you can pick 10 orcs out of the 14 or whatever different types, and so I need to go through and figure out which ones I'm going to finish up, or which ones I'm going to go with. I'm going to look a lot closer, too, at each of the ones that I picked to see if there's any that I'm like, I can't build these two with the same, because, you know, that happened with the Veteran Guardsmen. If you follow the rules, or the instructions in the for building the models, you really can't build a plasma gunner and a melta-gunner from that same box because they both use the same right arm piece and there's only one of them. So I had to kit bash a little bit to get it to work because I was like, I'll be darned if I'm not going to have both a plasma gunner and a melta-gunner. You know, it's legal. It's part of the thing. It says you can take each of them. It's not like I'm cheating. It's something you can do. They just don't give you the parts for it for some reason in that box. And I'm like, well, that's dumb. So I had to kit bash some stuff. Anyway, so I'm gonna make sure that the orcs are also, you know, doable in that fashion, and then build the list I want, and then start doing that. Plus, like I said, I'm gonna be building some orcs, including some Gretchen, for a game called Space Weirdos that I enjoy quite a bit too. So they won't be orcs per se; they'll just be some sort of aliens. But the leader, who will not be a Gretchen but will be an orc, will probably have a fez because fezzes are cool. Need Old World for Mordenheim to make sense to release. Yeah, I mean, I still don't... We were talking a little bit about the Old World yesterday, me and Vince and Sam, because we were hanging out. And I don't know... Yeah, I would like to see Mordheim, but I don't want to do square bases. So, yeah, it's kind of weird. Let's see here. Just stick a printing machine in their factory and make them themselves. I mean, you can't just stick a printing machine. There's more to it than that, certainly. Certainly, there's technical stuff. It's not like a video game where you're just like, oh, I'm going to just snap on this onto this building, and now it does this times 2 or whatever. That'd be cool if it worked that way, though. But yeah, printing is a very different thing than the plastic manufacturing that they do. So, but they've got enough money that you would think that they could, at the very least, find some other company within the UK that could do it. Or, like you said, maybe just build their own facility. There's no reason not to do that. Again, it would say, I mean, I think that more companies are going to start to think about that stuff more versus just like, oh, we'll get it done someplace else and ship it here. Because obviously shipping is screwed right now. If you've been paying attention to anything, all of the different board game Kickstarters out there right now that are in the process of trying to get their stuff done, they're all losing money, hand over fist. Because the price of a single shipping container, to rent a shipping container to get it to go from point A to point B with all of your precious board game bits and all that stuff, all that jazz in there, the price of those shipping containers to use them for a shipping job has, I believe, quadrupled, if not more, over the last year. So, yeah, you're not going to see a lot of board games kicking out giant Kickstarters for a while now because they can't afford to. And the ones that are currently in progress are losing their shirts because they can't, because things have changed so drastically. Besides the price of paper going up and all that jazz, and then the shipping issues. Not only are we talking about it costs a ton more, it also comes down to, can you even get a shipping container to use? I'm willing to pay quadruple. Oh well, we still don't have them. You know what I mean? Like it's a global issue right now, and it's not going away anytime soon. So I, for one, very happy that the game that we produce is mainly a PDF, or it is printed closer to the location into which it's going to some degree. That's a good thing, at least from my point of view. But yeah, that flood of board gaming Kickstarters that's been coming for the last 5 years or so, it's about to dry up a lot because a lot of people are going to look at the numbers and go, oh geez, I can't get this stuff printed and shipped for any amount of money. And so yeah, that's gonna change quite a bit. The kombucha lizard. I mean, I technically don't think that's his name, but it is his name now. Let's see here. Hey, Gaddis Gaming, how you doing? Checking out Terrain Machine now. This is a really cool idea. Yeah, it's like I said, it's basically like if you're familiar with Hero Forge, which is where you can pick like, oh, I want this person to be a lizard person or a human or a skeleton or whatever, and then male, female, tall, short, whatever. You can tweak all that stuff, tweak their clothes, tweak their weapons, even tweak their poses and stuff like that, and then you make this a model, and you can spin it around 3-dimensionally, and you're doing it in your browser, so you don't even need special software. And then you can either say, hey, print that, send it to me, and I'm going to paint that, and that's going to be my D&D guy, or you can be like, hey, give me, sell me the STL for, like I said, $8 or $10. I think it's a very cool thing. This is the same deal with Terrain Machine. It's different types of buildings. You can pick different sizes and heights and all that kind of stuff. They got sci-fi stuff. They got, I don't know if they have any fantasy stuff right now, but they've got sci-fi stuff. They've got like modern stuff, even like stuff that would work well, I think, for Marvel Crispy Rainbow, whatever, that, the Marvel game, because you've got like New York style buildings, like they got Brooklyn buildings and Bushwick buildings and brick and this and that and all that kind of stuff. And it's really kind of cool. And now, but they won't print it though, I don't think. You basically get the STL and then you need to print it. I'm sort of interested in Old World for the miniatures, but I'm not interested in the size of the armies, the rank and flank, or the sorts of people that will play Old World. Gotcha. We were talking yesterday about how we thought it was strange that even if they're going to make it a rank and flank game, which it sounds like they probably will, why still square bases though? Because if you look at other rank and flank games out there that are doing it, like Song of Ice and Fire, those guys are on rounds, but they're still put into a tray that has holes for rounds. The benefit of being on the rounds and putting them into the rectangular trays is that If you've got a guy with a long spear, he's not poking the other guy in the back of the head. You can turn him a little bit because he's on a round base. So you're not... Like, back in the day when you were playing fantasy, there'd be like, no, this guy always has to go in the front because otherwise he'll just poke everybody in the back and scrape the model, and you don't want that. So this guy has to go in the front. This guy has to, he's got like this. Like, he's got his shield and his sword, and he's just like, yep, this is cool. And that guy gets to go in the middle. But everybody else who's doing something even vaguely interesting, they only can go on the outside edges of my block of models. You put them on rounds, and you don't have to worry about that. Same with Conquest, Last Argument of Kings, that game. Those guys are on round bases, but they go into rectangular trays, and then you can rotate them all a little bit to make them fit perfectly and do what you want. Kings of War, they're on squares, but technically you don't even need to put them on squares because you kind of make the entire base as like one model. It becomes like a little mini diorama, right? If you want to go that way, which is very cool as well. The concept of taking a bunch of squares and trying to put them into square bases on a square or rectangular thing seems a little old to me, but it's called the old world, I guess. I don't know. My company had 2 shipping containers on our lot. We sold them for 8 times what we bought them for. Oh yeah, no, it's ridiculous right now. It's crazy. Let's see here. I will now always use Marvel Crispy Rainbows. Sure, yeah. People making houses from shipping containers are also driving up the cost. Oh, I hadn't thought of that. It's a good point. Yeah. Let's see. It's crazy for me how successfully the worst elements of the community have already claimed co-opted an unreleased game. It's bad for business and makes me wonder how the old world will do. Yeah, I don't know a ton about it, honestly. Like my opinion is it's probably going to be like Horus Heresy, but for fantasy. Like Horus Heresy, there are people that are playing Horus Heresy, and the Horus Heresy rules are, I think, a couple editions ago. Are they more close to 7th edition 40k? I don't know a ton about it. But predominantly all the models are you have to buy all the models for the most part through Forge World. I have a suspicion the old world will be kind of like that, where it'll probably be a little bit more like 8th edition fantasy, and they'll have and old world models, and they'll be on square bases, and they'll so if people, that's cool. I mean, if that's what it takes to get some people back into the hobby because they don't like Age of Sigmar for whatever reason, or they hate round bases, they don't like anything round, or there's nothing round in their house, that's fine, whatever. But yeah, but it's not, I don't see myself doing it myself personally. So avid follower from the UK here. Love your content. Well, thank you very much, Jordan. Have you ever explored the Middle-earth strategy battle game by GW since its revival? No. I bought the original when it was called the Lord of the Rings. I think it was the first one was called Lord of the Rings strategy battle game. And I bought that book, and I read through it, and I'm like, this is very interesting. I like the rule set here. This is cool. And then I didn't know anybody else that bought it, and I couldn't even really find the models anywhere locally. Like, even places that carry GW stuff generally didn't carry the Lord of the Rings stuff. Then they switched it to the Hobbit strategy battle game, and they also added the War of the Ring, which I looked at the book, but I didn't pull the trigger on. And I don't like army games anymore anyway. I prefer smaller skirmishy stuff, so there's that. And then now the new book is called the Middle-earth strategy battle game, right? And I own a copy of that. I picked it up at, like, they released it at, this was probably 2 years ago, 3 years ago? How long ago was it they released it? They released it during the weekend that I was at the Las Vegas Open. And Games Workshop had a booth at the Las Vegas Open. No, not Las Vegas, sorry. Nova Open, the one in DC. So I remember they had like a midnight release or whatever, and there was a line of people standing there, and I was just like, oh, that's pretty cool. And then the next day I came down into the booth and was looking around, and I saw they still had some, like they hadn't sold out. So I was like, oh, cool, I'll pick one up. I don't want to stand in line, though. So I did that, and again, I've flipped through it just to kind of keep an eye on it. I like that kind of stuff, but I've never really, again, like I don't know anybody in the local area that plays it, and but the models are pretty cool looking. I do own I bought some of the terrain. Well, I've bought 2 pieces of the terrain. I bought the Ruins of Osgiliath, which I painted and I use in stuff on and off. It's a great little kit. I dig that. And I bought the Lake Town houses, but I have not yet built them. But they will eventually be some sort of fantasy shenanigans. They're very, very cool models. So, if they redo Mordheim, does it have to be Old World? I don't think so, but folks will probably think so. I actually made a video about this, like a year or so ago. Something about like what how can they bring back Mordheim or whatever. And I don't want to say I made a chart, but I did have a lot of like, well, if 40k is to like kill team, and Age of Sigmar is to like Warcry, then Necromunda is kind of like to I was trying to make some parallels there and whatever, but I think that they could bring it back. They could make basically like a Necromunda, but fantasy, and it could be Mordheim, but. So they could either do it, like, if you look at Necromunda is all new models. Necromunda is not like, oh, we used basically stuff from 40k. No, they came up with all new models. They could do the same thing with Mordheim. Come out with all new models. They could be fantasy. They could be old world. I don't care, but they could do it if they wanted to. What a lot of people are saying is that, well, once they start making models for the old world, which would be its own game, could they then just also make an add-on that uses those same models? I'd say that they would very probably be smarter to make their own models just for Mordheim. I think it would sell well. Lord knows they like making new models. Looks like they're making basically a lot of new models for Kill Team. So, yeah, And again, the models they're making locally. They don't have to worry about going and shipping back and forth to China with that stuff. Whereas the printed stuff, that's a different story. Let's see here. New Middle-earth series should be a good, at least for the first season. Not sure what's going to be like once it becomes Middle-earth. I'm kind of interested in seeing that thing on Amazon, definitely. Only thing you need to change the setting of Mordheim is to rename Warpstone to something else. Sure, I can understand that. That said, a new Mordheim game with new figures and old world would be hella dope. It would be hella dope, as the children do say. Yeah, no, I agree. I think it would be pretty cool if they would release it. If it was like I said, if it was just basically Necromunda. I'm not saying the same rules, but Necromunda is a game in and of itself with plastic models, which are really good, and they produce more and more of them, and they come out with stuff. They could be doing that same thing with Mordheim, and I think it would sell, frankly. They could do Mordheim like they started making the models for Cursed City. Those were sort of Mordheim-esque. Exactly, yeah. No, absolutely. Now, admittedly, though, those were also Age of Sigmar, like New World stuff. So, I think there would be some folks that might get snippy about the fact if they decided to make it, and I talked about this in the video, there would be people that would get snippy about it if they were like, oh, well, it's Mordheim, but now it's not Old World, it's, Age of Sigmar, and I don't like that, and whatever. And I can understand that to some degree. I mean, Age of Sigmar is a bit post-apocalyptic. It's like, it's after, the mortal realms are spread all over, and all that jazz. Whereas the Old World, it was like, here's a planet, and that's where we live, and whatever. But they would have to change the story, and you're right, they would have to change the Warpstone thing, probably, or something like that, but I'm okay with that. If it's a fun game that is in the same vein as Mordheim, I'm all for it. I gotta be honest with you, one of the issues that I've always had with Mordheim was the fact that your army, and this is the thing they fixed in Frostgrave, which is why I like Frostgrave a lot, every army was completely different. And that's cool, but there were also times when you're like, hey, let's get together and play that game. We'll build some stuff. It'll be great. Nobody gets to play this faction because this faction is broken. Or nobody, there were a lot of things you had to be like, yeah, this is, we shouldn't use this because this is a winning combination or whatever, because it wasn't crazy balanced. Let's just say that. So with Frostgrave, it's, I have a wizard, I have an apprentice, and then henchmen, and the henchmen are all basically coming from the same pool. So if you also decided I want to change things up and try a different type of army, you wouldn't have to change your henchmen if you didn't want to. You just change the people at the top, and then it can play differently, but the hench people are still hench people. But in Mordheim, it was like, if you went Reichland, their lower people, or lesser people or whatever, hench people or whatever, were very different than the possessed and all that kind of stuff, and so that was a bit of a bummer. At least in my opinion. These children don't say hella dope anymore. I think that's the joke. Yeah. GW is really into people using their own terrain now too, so we'd need plastic I'm thinking you're saying isn't really into people using their own terrain now. We need plastic Mordheim buildings as well, much like Necromunda got serious terrain support. Yeah, no, you're very true. That's very true. If the new Amazon Lord of the Rings show gives us new Lord of the Rings sculpts from Games Workshop, I will be more than happy to have it around. I always enjoyed the miniature representation of those films, even the Hobbit ones. The only models I own from from Lord of the Rings from Games Workshop, it's that set. I think they're called the Hunters, and it's basically like Gimli and Legolas and Aragorn. It's just those three guys were in that box, and it was like a box roughly about the size of this box at Gretchen's, but it was just those three models. And I built those guys, but I haven't ever painted them. But I just I was going to use them in some other fantasy game or whatever. But they're they're good sculpts. I really like them. I feel like they chose the most old world like minion or models for Cursed City anyway. Yeah, to some degree. They were definitely kind of compatible-ish, at least as far as I could tell. All right, folks, it's 11 a.m. here in my neck of the woods, which means it's the end of the show. So thanks for everybody for coming by. Going forward, like I said, I'm going to be working on some orcs, and some of them for kill teams, so I can play two, proper kill teams against each other and give some more thoughts about that. And then also building some orcs that I could use I could possibly even use them for Stargrave, but I'm definitely planning on using them for Space Weirdos. So looking forward to doing that. Maybe I'll paint those guys on Twitch. We'll see how it goes. So thanks for coming by. I hope you have a good rest of your weekend. If you're in the United States, and I guess some other places as well, Labor Day tomorrow, which generally means end of summer, but it also means usually like a picnic or hangout or do whatever you want. Maybe paint some miniatures. That's fun. That's what I'm hoping to do. So, I'll see you folks again in a couple of weeks here on the Every Other Sunday show. I want to thank everyone for coming by and the chatting and all that kind of stuff. And have a good rest of your weekend, and thanks for watching.